Dan Hurley flies to LA to discuss the Lakers job while legions of scribes wipe crates of eggs off their face. USC now has too many players on their basketball team, and there's a galaxy rumor that we want to tap the brakes on a little bit. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is June 7, 2024. After a transcontinental flight, we are back in the sanctum sanctorum of LA sports. Do you like being in the know about LA? Well, if you do, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that and let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Mookie Betts had seen enough. He goes 2 for 4, drives in 3, scores twice, hits a home run. Dodgers 11, Pittsburgh 7. Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez also homer. The Dodgers at least escape Pittsburgh without getting swept. Small victories. What are you going to do? Meanwhile, today, this is tasty. Dodgers at Yankees, 4 o'clock. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is 6-2 with a 3.32 ERA versus Cody Poteet, who has a 1-1 record with a 2.45 ERA. Dallas is at the Sparks at 7, and frankly, the WNBA is a total clown show. Right now, the less said about the Sparks, the better, until they at least start winning. But let's get to the news. Multiple outlets are reporting that UConn coach Dan Hurley is in Los Angeles to talk turkey about becoming the coach, and that the Lakers are preparing, quote, a massive offer. They've already had preliminary discussions. The story now, though, is that the Lakers had always had their eyes on Hurley. Fancy that. Then why hadn't we heard about that for like the last month, right? They always had their eyes on Hurley, and they just decided to let the scribes just gossip about player podcaster JJ Redick like mean girls in junior high. And I hope to God that that part of the story is true, for reasons that we'll get to in a moment. We also learned part of the reason the Lakers are so enamored with Hurley is they believe he can help lift the team when they are too strapped with salary cap issues to enhance the roster further. In other words, the belief is that Hurley, much like he was able to do in college, can be flexible and in the process boost Austin Reeves, boost Rui Hachimura, and Max Christie. Remember him? If the Lakers do, in fact, hire Hurley, by the way, we are going to break down his offense to the best of our ability, what made UConn an offensive powerhouse in college, and hopefully in the NBA that would translate to outfox teams such as Denver. But despite who the Lakers will hire, I think the big takeaway from this whole thing is that there were way too many people who manipulated the press, manipulated a gullible, immature, unprofessional, and very willing to be tricked press, who in turn manipulated public opinion. And a lot of that was done behind the scenes. And this is why an old school former journo like me was wondering when this whole Redick thing was being hyped. I was wondering if the entire world was about to spin off its axis, for Pete's sake. Because the whole story made no damn sense. Consider the continued push in the press for Redick. To them, oh, it was a done deal, even though common sense told you that the whole idea was freaking ridiculous. The 17-time NBA champions turning the keys and the future of their franchise with arguably one of the greatest basketball players of all time in his final couple of years and still playing at a high level, and you're going to hand the keys over to a podcaster? How in the blue hell does that make any sense? So now A lot of these scribes and these pundits are just left wiping all of that rotten tomatoes, the rotten vegetables, the rotten eggs, all of the produce that you can see in the back of an Aldi, right next to the dumpster, just wiping it right off their faces. Now, meanwhile, not all of them are actually going to say that they made a mistake, because who among us admits to making mistakes? Trust me, you're a better human being when you actually admit to your goofs. Last night, though, there was at least one scribe who was trying to twist this massive journalistic L into a W. CBS Sports published a column claiming, hey, Redick is better off without the Lakers gig. Sam Quinn is the author, and the very first sentence that he wrote literally slams a torpedo into his own thesis. This is how he started saying Redick is better off. Quote, "The Los Angeles Lakers are, above all else, star chasers," unquote. Now that would be true if the Lakers were pursuing a player, but they've only had one so-called star coach in my entire lifetime, and I'm 56. That was Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was a star coach. Pat Riley's first gig was with the Lakers. He wasn't a star then. The Showtime Lakers made him a star. You could argue maybe Rudy Tomjanovich was a star coach, but he barely lasted a month because his health was failing. Nobody would damn sure call Mark D'Antoni a star. For that matter, would you call Randy Fund, Del Harris, Darvin Ham, Luke Walton et al. Big-time coaches? Of course not. Del Harris was nicknamed Dull Harris for a reason. So no, Redick didn't dodge a bullet. Let's stop that in its tracks. The press, they didn't dodge a bullet either. They got riddled with bullets like it was a John Wick movie. Very little of the Redick to the Lakers story made any sense. And that was why, when it was being pushed on us, I was wondering if Jeannie Buss, a lady I respect, had lost her mind. Turns out, thank God, she didn't. And by the way, as a former scribe, let me tell you what's going on in these newsrooms across America right now. The scribes who are taking an L for covering the NBA, they are all getting their asses chewed out by their editors right now. Trust me, I've had my ass chewed out when I blew a story. They all got reamed at least a half a dozen new buttholes over this. I worked for smaller newspapers. On occasions, by the way, I would scoop a rival, right? And the scribe of that paper would be like, yeah, I got called in and chewed out. News outlets hate getting scooped. And they damn sure hate getting wrong, especially on a level like this. The best college coach out there, a podcaster. And they tried to sell us on that crap. Trust me, editors at ESPN, the LA Times, The Athletic, you name it. They are all going at their beat writers and saying, you mean to tell me that you had no sources and no idea whatsoever with all of that leaks that go on in the Lakers front office, and you try to convince us a podcaster would be the head coach of the LA Lakers? That's what the editors are screaming about right now. Now, The Athletic, they tried to spin it a little bit. So did the LA Times. There's a source quoted in the LA Times that says, I don't know if I've ever been more shocked, unquote. Then they made the whole thing sound like Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss snuck out of Lakers headquarters like Taylor Swift at the end of a Chiefs game. They're not even taking away the stories that claimed that Redick was the guy. If you go to the LA Times app today, on the same screen where Bill Plaschke just gushes over Hurley with all the estrogen he can muster, scroll down a little bit and you will see the LA Times still says Redick is the, quote, heavy favorite, unquote. I'm really passionate about this because of the absolute piss poor journalism that went on. I'd be begging for my job if I had written this crap. I really would. Redick, though, puffing his chest out all those weeks, claiming that he wasn't going to talk about the Lakers' job until after the NBA Finals. I've never seen a man's chest pop like a balloon before, but trust me, that's what happened to Redick last night. But I would say this, in conclusion of this rant on this craptacular miscarriage of journalism that went on for the last 3 weeks. If you remember a few weeks ago, there was a story that noted that former Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski was an advisor on the coaching search. The scribes misinterpreted it. They were saying, yeah, that validates it. Redick's a front runner. But nobody seemed to recall that Krzyzewski coached Hurley's brother. You had to use your head to connect those dots. You had to not fall for the hype. Dozens of reporters fell for the hype. And that, by the way, is why journalism is in trouble in the United States. Hype over actual knowledge. Will they learn? Probably not. Meanwhile, over at USC, guard Wesley Yates, once a top 100 recruit in the class of 2023, is transferring from Washington to USC. Yates is 6'4". He didn't play any games last year for the Huskies due to a foot injury, so he has 4 years of eligibility remaining. He'll join 2 Washington assistant coaches in Will Conroy and Quincy Poindexter, who were hired by Eric Musselman. The addition is a bit of a conundrum in that USC now, though, has 14 scholarship players. The limit is 13. They got to get rid of somebody or make that person a walk-on. Now, having said that, Yates is not going to be the guy that loses his scholarship. We've been talking about the 2 things that the Trojans basketball team lacked all this time. A true center, their tallest guy is 6'8", and a playmaking guard. So Yates is must-have. I want to address a rumor that people have been bringing to my attention these last couple of days about the Galaxy and FC Barcelona striker Robert Lewandowski, who is an internationally known, he is a sniper. He can put the ball in the net. Because I damn sure do not want to fall in the same trap that everybody did regarding the Lakers coaching search. I don't doubt for a moment the Galaxy want the guy. But if you take a second look, the whole thing runs into too many major obstacles, huge obstacles. Kind of like an obstacle so big, it's kind of like that movie where that poor bastard had to basically amputate his own arm with a pocket knife to save his life. That kind of obstacles. Because this whole story right now is being based on social media conjecture and hype from MLS TV analyst Taylor Twellman. And by the way, I like Taylor Twellman, but he is basing his opinion on 2 things. 1, the foreign soccer press, which is extremely unreliable. 2, Twellman said that the Galaxy had to find a way to navigate around the $16 million Lewandowski is making from Barcelona. How the hell do you navigate around $16 million? Especially in MLS. There are teams in MLS who their entire payroll is about $16 million. The MLS is actually kind of a cheapskate league if you look at it. Twellman was saying one way to get a little cap space would be either to send out 1 or 2 designated players. They could also theoretically, according to Twellman, let Mark Delgado go. Delgado could leave as soon as 3 weeks. That part isn't true. So again, Twellman is basing his theory, building it on a house of cards. Here's the deal. Because Delgado, by the way, is under contract until at least December. I would look at Lewandowski like a lottery ticket. You know the Galaxy want him. Maybe they could finagle something. But I would tuck it in a drawer like a lottery ticket and wait till the ping pong balls start bouncing. Kings forward Akil Thomas will stay in Los Angeles thanks to a 2-year contract that he signed. Considering how pushed up against the cap the Kings are, he's going to get a really long look in training camp to make the team. Because as unfortunate as this sounds, they need contributors who will play for the league minimum. That is yet another problem caused by that irrational contract handed to Pierre-Luc Dubois. They don't have this cap space. They need minimum wage people producing maximum results. UCLA football has added offensive tackle Garrison Blank to a big week of high school recruiting victories in the class of 2025. He's considered a 3-star recruit, built like a house, 298 pounds, 6'7". He's from Rockland, California. Also, linebacker Bryant Struther, a man that I have almost accidentally called Chloe more than once, will be transferring to BYU. Bryant Struther appeared in 24 games for the Bruins in the last 2 years. He has 38 tackles and a sack. Eliezer Hernandez was not claimed after being designated for assignment by the Dodgers last week, which means he can either go back to Oklahoma City or elect free agency. And Russell Westbrook of the Clippers has a tax lien of more than $11,000. Oh my God! How will he be able to cut that check to Gavin Newsom? Oh wait, he made more than $300 million in his career. I think he's got it. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. How you may be happy about the idea of Dan Hurley, but how angry are you at being betrayed by a gullible press? Who would you look to trim if you were USC basketball? Do you believe the Galaxy actually will get Robert Lewandowski? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day now. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortel Queso production. Take care.